Well, welcome back. Hundreds of teens met in Boston yesterday for the 10th annual Breakup Summit, organized by the Public Health Commission to talk to kids about sex, media, and breakups.
And this comes in the midst of some alarming statistics about dating violence among our youth. Among Boston Public High School students specifically, 15% of females and 10% of males have experienced some form of physical or sexual dating violence in the last year. So joining us to talk about this is Jess Alder, the program director, and Dylene, who's one of the student peer counselors for this Breakup Summit that happened yesterday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Peer leader.
Peer leader.
Indeed.
You're a peer leader. And what is this Breakup Summit, Jess?
Yeah, so the Breakup Summit, as Liam was saying, brings together around 200 young people, 50 providers to start conversations around having a healthy breakup. And each year we do a different theme. This year the theme focused on sex, media, and breakups.
And it's interesting, we were talking about the fact that you've been involved in all 10 years of the Breakup Summit.
Indeed.
Have you noticed changes, or is there something that stands out to you that has evolved over that decade?
Holy buckets, yes.
Yeah.
This year, the year before that, and the other year, we're all focused on some forms of media, whether it's social media, media that we've produced, or this year specifically focusing on the impact of messages around sex and media, and how that's changed, the technology that's changed with it, how we approach the conversations has evolved tremendously since then.
I want to dive into that in a little bit. Dylene, what is it that you do as a peer leader as part of this program?
Well, being a part of Start Strong, I'm able to, during the summer, talk to and teach other teens to allow them to become experts also in the field, allowing them to get to know about healthy relationships, about preventing teen dating violence, and being able to allow them to become experts of their own so they can go on later on during the school year and be able to teach other groups, even that goes from middle school to like adults as well.
So the conversation sort of spreads from that first moment, and everyone can kind of take some of that stuff in.
Yes, to be able to spread it out into different communities is really important.
Yeah, and that's so great because you're giving kids coping skills, tools to know what to do when they're in a bad situation. Among your friends, your friend group, do you hear about dating violence a lot?
In my friend group, actually my best friend, she knows a lot about this as well and is able to like have conversations with me about it. But within my friend group, this is something that we talk about a lot because a lot of times through media we see that a lot of the unhealthy aspects of relationships are always like promoted and able to allow for other people to see, oh, this is the best way to have a relationship, even though it is not. And so in my friend group, we're able to talk about it and like really unpack what these messages behind relationships being said in the media and how we could like actually talk about it.
What's an example of that, would you say, of bad behavior that's promoted?
Well, it comes a lot to physical behaviors, as in choking. Like choking is something that like now we see moving forward in like my years as a teenager. That is something that like a lot of teenagers say, oh, that's something like cute to do in a relationship, or like things like that. And like being able to work with Start Strong, we've been able to unpack how that actually cannot always be the best thing. And like it's always important to have, if you want to have that as a part of your relationship, to be consensual instead of just like your partner coming up behind you and like choking you or something.
What are the goals of this program? It's been 10 years now, Jess. Is it just to start those sorts of conversations? What's the goal in your mind of the Breakup Summit?
Yeah, I would say the goal is threefold. One is to start the conversation. Not a lot of people have an opportunity to discuss how to have a healthy breakups. We all know that they suck. They're terrible. They're not fun. It doesn't matter if you're a youth or an adult. They're really unpleasant. And learning how to navigate that responsibly is the crux of the Breakup Summit. Second is that young people are powerful. Their voices need to be heard and they need to be echoed in the halls. And that's the other point of the Breakup Summit, is that the theme is created by our young people. The workshops are created and delivered by our young people. They are the skeleton in the making, so they do all the behind the scenes, they do the registration. They're powerful, and this is a space for them to highlight their strength and leadership. And the third, providers need this information too. We're charging our youth workers with the responsibility of our young people, and if they don't have the option to explore how to navigate healthy relationships, how to talk about relationships, if they don't have those tools, then those are missed opportunities of connection with the youth.
And the important thing is you're getting them to talk often about things they don't really want to talk about.
Yep, early and
At
often
their
is always
age.
the goal.
Well,
Yeah.
Jess Alder and Dilene, thank you so much for talking with us about the
Thank you.
Breakup Summit. Thanks.
Always a
It's a
pleasure.
real pleasure to have you guys in.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Let's go over to Barry now with the